Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. My name is Ulfah Fauziah. In this occasion, I will explain about my presentation about the research proposal from the subject seminar on current issues in ELT. Let's get started.
Guys, in this occasion, I will present about my research proposal, and the title of my research proposal is The Student Perception Toward Implementation of Blended Learning in English Teaching and Learning Process. The content of research proposal, the first chapter is Introduction. Background of study, identification of problem, limitation of problem, research objective, and benefit of research. Chapter 2, literature review, theoretical review, previous research finding, and conceptual framework. Chapter 3 is research method. The point of research design, research site, population and sample, data collection, and instrument. We will start from chapter 1, Introduction. Background of study. In every field of education, blended learning courses have become very popular today, especially in pandemic era. Social distancing must be made to break the spread of the coronavirus. The reason of researchers conduct this study want to know the effectiveness of the blended learning method, and also pandemic corona become an obstacle in the learning process. The limited space and learning time during the pandemic can be resolved by the blended learning. This research will conduct student grade 11 IPA 2 at MAN 2 Majalengka. Because with the corona pandemic, this method had already been started at the school. The novelty from the research is the research conducted during the corona pandemic, and the blended learning method is an alternative method suitable for a pandemic. B. Identification of problem. Based on the background described above, several problems can be identified that can be researched, including first, the lack of method of learning English in Indonesian and less effective. And the second is the low interest of students in English is indicated by the student feeling not confident in participating in English learning. The next point is limitation of problem. Based on the background above, the limitation of the problem found by researchers is still a problem in the effectiveness of the blended learning. And the next point, research problem. Based on the previous background, the researcher formulated a question as follows. 1. What are the student perception toward implementation of the blended learning method in English teaching and learning process? Second, what the strength and weakness of blended learning method in English teaching and learning process? And the third, what blended learning method is effective for English teaching and learning process? And the next point is research objective. Based on the research problem above, the research objective are as follows. Student perception toward implementation blended learning method in the English teaching and learning process. And the second, knowing the strength and weakness of the blended learning method. And the third is knowing the blended learning method is effective for English teaching and learning process. And the next, benefit of research. Blended learning in general considered to have great potential to increase the effectiveness and efficiency of teaching and learning activities. And the second, this blended learning will be very important to EFL, English Foreign Language, in increasing the achievement of teacher target. And the chapter 2, literature review. The first point is theoretical review, divided into 3. The first is definition of perception, the second definition of blended learning, and the third English teaching and learning process. Definition of perception. The perception from the Latin perceptio, percipio in the organization. Identification and interpretation of sensory information in order to represent and understand an environment. Definition of blended learning. Blended learning consists of two words, blended, mixed, and learning setting. Blended learning is an education that combines online digital media with traditional classroom method. English teaching and learning process. English teaching and learning process that include many variables. These variables interact as learning work toward their goal and incorporate new knowledge, behavior, and skill that add to their range of learning experience and knowledge. And the next, previous research finding. The first from Sri Serli Novianti, Talis, Erwin, Akib, Parisa, and Basu, 2018. The student perception toward implementation blended learning method in English language teacher ELT student in English Department Makassar, Muhammadiyah University. And the next previous research finding from Eko Aprianto, 2018. This research also about determine the student behavior effect of blended learning environment on the academic success in English language classes, as well and their motivation in attending the new learning environment. And the last from Pardede 2012. In Universitas Kristen Indonesia conduct a research about blended learning in ELT. He found the most ELT lecturers agree that because of limited time they have in the classroom, students do not have opportunities to practice the skill and language component they had just learning in different and varying contexts. And this is about the conceptual framework. Okay, the next chapter, third, research method. The first is research design. The study researcher uses qualitative descriptive method as design method because it is appropriate to collect data from the student perception. Qualitative descriptive is research method that utilizes qualitative data and clearly explain. This type of qualitative descriptive research is often used to analyze social events, phenomena, or circumstances. B. Research site. The research will be conducted at MAN 2 Majalengka with the research subject that class is 11. And the next point is population and sample. Population can be explained as the comprehensive group of individuals, institutions, objects, and so forth which have a common characteristic that are the interests of the researcher. The population in the study are students of MAN 2 Majalengka, grade 11, total 315 students, and a sample refers to smaller manageable version of the large group. The sample in the study is some students in the class 11 IPA 2 with total of 36 people. The data collection. Researcher use questionnaire and interview as instrument. In gathering the data, the researcher used the following procedure. The first, the researcher gave questionnaire to the sample of the research. The researcher collect the questionnaire, and then the researcher interview the student, and then the researcher analyze the data, and the next, the researcher classify the answer based on the questionnaire, and the last, the researcher did the data and made conclusion. And the next instrument divide 2 points. The first is questionnaire. The researcher used Likert scale to get data questionnaire from the student. A Likert scale is a type a red scale used to measure attitude or opinion. With this scale, respondents are asked to rate item on a level of agreement. For example, like the table in the presentation. And the second is interview. An interview in the study purpose to obtain information about student perception or what extent student understood the blended learning. And the second is interview. An interview in the study purpose to obtain information about student perception or what extent student understood the blended learning method and how to use the blended learning method. Then the researcher compare the data from the perception of other students.
Okay, that's all for me. I'm so sorry if many mistakes from my presentation. I hope that give benefit for us. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.